Favorite Christmas movie? How many of you guys, that's your favorite Christmas movie? Or at least one of them? Yeah? No? No. Some of you, give it up. I need to see who loves that movie. Okay. It's one of the few movies in my life that I've watched many, many times. It is absolutely my favorite Christmas movie. I relate to it on so many levels. So today, because we had Halloween yesterday, it's now officially time to turn our attention to Christmas. Okay? So here we go. Christmas Vacation, the new series coming up. It's going to help you in so many ways. We're going to talk about all different kinds of human relations, things like how to deal with Cousin Eddie, how to deal with your in-laws, how to say the blessing. We're going to get into all kinds of cool stuff in this season ahead as we do the Christmas Vacation series. Today we're going to talk about a very important emotion called anger. Anger. But before I do that, I got to applaud you guys. You know, I moved over here to sit with my mother-in-law for just a minute. This is Julie's mom, Betty Zoe, and her sister and brother and children up front. We're so glad to have you all here. But when I sat here, it's different sitting over there. Over there, you guys sound pretty good. Here, it's like, man, you guys are a great choir. You really are good. You guys sing really, really well. I applaud you. Give it up for yourselves. Man, fun to sing with you today. It was awesome. It was just good worship with you today. And last week, while we were away, we had a great time. Mike did a great job. I heard about his grief sermon. Did a super job. Thank you, Mike, for doing that. You know, really helped a lot of people. That grief, you know, is such a present thing for us, and so important to know how to handle that. So Mike did a super job, and I appreciate that. It's great. I think some people tell me sometimes, like, you know, Mike did really good. Like, they expect me to leave somebody that's going to be really bad. Like, no, we're going to make sure we put the best people up here we can. So anyway, so it's interesting sometimes. Like, really? I'm glad he was. I wouldn't have let him be up here if I think he was going to be great. So anyway, it's a different story. But anyway, how to deal with anger. Now, I know, you know, anger, it's possible with anger to build your house up or to tear it down. Now, you might say, Jeff, I don't think you can build your house with anger, but I know I can certainly burn it down. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of like an arson expert when it comes to burning my house down with anger. Like, I know how to destroy relationships, how to blow things up, how to get angry, and how just to say things I shouldn't say, and then make a mess of my own life and of the lives of the people that I love the most. Any of you guys ever done that? Never. Good. You are an expert. You get up here and teach this thing, man. I'm done. But I've done it. I've done it. And yet it's possible. The Bible tells us it's possible to really use our anger, to harness it for good things too. Imagine all the great things that have happened in the world when people were angry enough to take action about a problem in the world. Where they got agitated enough and angry enough and it bothered them enough that they would take action to do something great with that energy that comes from anger. There's an awful lot of energy inside of anger, isn't there? Now, if we use it well, we can build our house up. If we use it poorly, we will burn our house down. So I want to show you today how you might be able to build your house up using the energy, how to harness that energy of anger. Ephesians 4:26 tells us this. It says, be angry, but don't sin. It actually gives you an imperative. It says, be angry, but don't sin. Now that's interesting. Is it possible to do both? Is it possible to be angry and yet not sin? I'm not sure. As we get closer to Christmas, the thing I dread the most is putting lights on the Christmas tree. I hate Christmas lights. Clark Griswold hates Christmas lights. Check this out. Trying to get the Christmas tree lights to light. Okay? Like, it doesn't matter how big the tree is. I mean, we have trees. We don't have great big trees. We have like a 6 or 7 foot tree, usually, you know, lately, especially the artificial kind. And I tell you, it does not matter how many strands of those little twinkly white lights that I put on the tree. It's never enough. 30 strands, I'm telling you, 3,000 lights one time. And I thought, I got this thing nailed. And I have the light critic that lives in my house. And she remains nameless, but she walks in the room and she goes, there's a hole right there. I'm like, are you kidding me? Hours I've got invested in this thing now. I'm 10 hours into wrapping lights and wrapping them around the branch and every sub branch and that back down the branch and then out the branch. And how many of you guys know what I'm talking about? I mean, some of you guys are like, yeah, you got it. And then once I get it perfect and it's finally okay, I turn and walk away from the tree, and you know what happens? Half the strands go out. I go back and shake the tree. It comes on. I walk away. It comes. They go out. And then, I'll begin to try to work my way through the strand, try to find the culprit light bulb. The one. We can send people into outer space. We have probes up there that are like looking into the stars, and we can't make a Christmas tree that lights. Does that aggravate you or what? It makes me absolutely lose my mind, like angry person on the loose in the house when this happens. I mean, I just want to burn the whole thing down like that at that point. Anger rises when I can't get the Christmas tree to light right. And I know a lot of you men especially are feeling my pain right now, because it is not fun in the Fuson household when it's time to light that dang tree, because I can never get it to light just right. And so we got to figure out how we're going to handle this anger when it comes, because it's coming. Something's going to set you off. Something's going to tick you off. Something's going to make you mad. Somebody's going to say something that's going to light you up, and it's going to cause you to want to just do something really stupid and use anger to burn your world down instead of to build it up. So I want to teach you today how to use anger, how to harness the power of anger to build your house instead of to burn it down. Okay? So let's see what we can do with this. And let's see if we can figure out how to do this thing of being angry without sinning. As Christians, as Christ followers, for those of you who are Christ followers, we wrestle with this idea of anger, because in our imagination, anger is always bad. Anger is never good. It's always a sin to be angry. Yet the Scriptures don't see it that way. It's telling us you got to be angry sometimes, but don't sin. We see it modeled in the life of Jesus. Jesus is coming into Jerusalem. In particular, he's coming into the temple one day, and there are people around the temple. This temple is a magnificent structure. You've seen some cathedrals and some church buildings that are pretty magnificent, but we've never seen anything in modern times that rivals the majesty of this place where Jesus was going to worship, of the temple. And just outside the temple, there were people at little tables selling sacrifices, doves, because people, but that they were, and Jesus, this, you make it, Jesus got something done. And although he was angry, I also believe that Jesus never sinned. So how can it be that he could do this, he could act that way, and yet not sin? Because he's under the power and the authority of God. You see, the challenge is for us, if you're a Christ follower, to bring yourself under the power and the authority of God and to use your anger well to do good things and not harmful things. And this is the challenge. And by the way, I got to say something right now. I know that not all of you who are here are Christ followers, and you may not even want to be. You may just be here because someone invited you, and or for whatever reason. I don't really know. But I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. I think today you're going to get some real practical ideas, no matter what you believe. But for Christ followers today, you're really going to get some good stuff, because when you mix these ideas with the power of the Holy Spirit, you can take your life to a whole nother level and use your anger really well. So it's possible to be angry without sinning, because Jesus did that. Oh, it's out there, and we know how to do that, or we don't know that it's possible. But Jesus always took his clues of what he was going to do next from his Father. The challenge for you and for me as people that follow Jesus is to take our cues from Jesus, from God, from the Holy Spirit, of what we're going to do next, how we're going to do it, how we're going to approach the situation we're in. And I want to give you some tools for that today. Now, how are we going to harness the power of our anger to do good things? I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to give you a case study. Then I'm going to give you a principle and a case study and a principle. And I want you to play therapist with me just a little bit. I want you to play like you're a counselor that's working with a person that has a particular situation I'm going to paint. And then we're going to give you a principle to go with that. Okay? So this should be kind of fun for us. Case study number 1. Robert, mid-40s executive. He's worked in the accounting department of... arrives early. He comes earlier than everybody else. He stays later than everybody else. He takes on extra projects. He takes on extra assignments. He's incredibly conscientious. He never misses a deadline. He is an A1 employee. But Robert does not know how to play the office politics game. So when promotions come and promotions go, Robert is still sitting at the same desk doing the same job. And his friends who started later than him, who don't arrive early to work, who miss deadlines, and who don't get everything done, are being promoted all around him. And he's left to become angrier and angrier and angrier. And he begins just to brew inside and to stew inside. And he presses this anger down inside of him. And at work, he's all smiles and fine. But when he gets home, he is a tyrant. Because this anger that's down inside of him is eating him alive. It is tearing him up inside. So much so that his family is afraid of him. When he comes home, the dog disappears, the cat runs away. His wife just kind of stays in the kitchen, keeps her head down, and the children all scatter. Nobody's sure what's going to happen when he comes through the door. They don't know. Because whereas he feels totally powerless at work, when he's around people that he feels that he's more powerful than, for some reason he unleashes this anger, and it goes in all directions, and he's just throwing knives all the time. And it creates this horrible scene at home all the time. Now, if you were sitting down with Robert, if you were his counselor, what's one thing you might say to him that might be helpful? I think principle number one is this. You would say something like this to Robert. Robert, or you might ask him a question first. Are you angry? And depending on which Robert you're talking to, you might go, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm happy, happy, happy. Right? Because let's just assume that Robert's a Christian. He knows that anger is a sin. He's not supposed to be angry. And he doesn't want to let you know that he's angry. So he avoids even admitting that he's angry. But the first thing that you'd need to do if you're going to really help him is what? To get him to admit what? He's angry. Like, dude, you just got to own this. You got to own it that you're angry. Consciously acknowledge to yourself that you are angry. Start there and say, you know what? I'm really, really angry. Even if you don't know why you're angry, at least start there. I'm angry. And then you can begin to figure out why you're angry. All right? So with Robert, we just got to get him to, first of all, admit that he's angry. Own it, dude, that you are angry. Now, the challenge with Robert, he's began to push down this anger, so much so that he treats it like it's a pet. In this case, I want to tell you that your anger, if you push it down, it's like having a pet python in the basement of your house. And we feed our anger, and we actually like to think about our anger, and we like to, over time, it becomes a pet that we're very familiar with and we enjoy, but it's hidden down in a way. But if you continue to feed a pet python in your basement, you know what will happen? It will get huge. And a huge python will eventually come out of his cage. And when he does, he will squeeze the life out of you. He will eat you. And he will destroy your life. And anger that's pushed down becomes a pet python that will eventually be out of control. It will hunt you down, and it will destroy your future. So if you don't bring anger up and you push it down, eventually it's coming back to get you. So the first thing we've got to do is own that we're angry. We got to admit, yes, I am really angry. I'm really hurt. And then you begin to excavate the source of that. All right, let's go to case study number 2. Case study number 2. Susie and Sam. Susie and Sam. Sweet couple, young couple. They're in their late 20s. And Susie and Sam have worked really hard. Sam finished at the top of his class in undergrad. He went on to med school, finished top of class in med school, and now he's got the rotation, he's got the training he always wanted to have in surgery, and he's out there, and he's working to become a full-blown surgeon, but he's in the operating room and he's at the hospital. And there's hope that someday this will be over and he'll start his practice and life will change. In the meantime, Susie is doing all she can to hold life together with 3 little babies, all under the age of 5. And you got the 5-year-old, the 3-year-old, and a newborn. And they're crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment. And Susie's doing the best she can to hold it together. But one of those days comes when it's dark outside and rainy and miserably cold, and she can't get the children out of the house, and the perfect storm comes up. And you know what it's like. They can't get out of this little apartment. They're stuck in there. The kids are fighting. The older two are at each other's throats, and the middle one begins just to scream, and the baby's got a dirty diaper and stinking and crying, and Susie is at her wit's end, and that middle child is just going nuts. And little Susanna is just screaming and crying because her brother's been picking on her. And Susie grabs Susanna and just shakes her and just tells her, "Would you just shut up?" and slams her down to the seat and tells her to be quiet. Susie can't believe what she's just done. And she backs up and she just sits on the floor. She just melts into a puddle of tears and just weeps. Like, what is going on with me? I love these children dearly. I love them. What is going on? What's happening? If you were Susie's counselor and you could sit with her, what would you say to her? How could you help her? I think these principles we're talking about today are things you could start with. Number one, you'd ask her, "Susie, are you angry?" "No, I'm fine." In her Christian voice, "I'm fine. I'm going to Bible study every week." You're really angry, aren't you? Yes, you are. You'd ask her to own it. The second thing you might coach her on is this: to restrain your immediate response. Man, when you're shaken up, when you feel your body start to change, see, anger brings with it a whole cascade of emotions, and chemicals get dumped into our body, and the fight or flight response amps up, and our skin temperature begins to rise, and our eyes pupils get wider, and our face maybe gets red, and there is such thing as a hot head physiologically. It's true. And when you feel all that starting to rise and starting to come, it's time for you to step back. Don't step forward. Step back. And don't just count to 10, but count to 1,000,000. Count to 1,000,000. Because if you don't count to 1,000,000, I promise what you're about to do is something you're going to regret. You won't like what flies out of your mouth. You won't like the action you're about to take. Just 2 or 3 minutes afterwards, you will regret that you did what you're about to do if you don't count to 1,000,000. And I'm not really kidding about 1,000,000. 10 probably isn't enough. The angrier you are, the more you better count. And step back. Let your physiology cool down. Let your body cool down. Step back. And if you're a Christ follower, bring your body, bring your soul, bring your spirit back under control of the Holy Spirit and just say, "God, I really want to say something here and do something here that I don't think is going to honor you. Would you help me right now to just do better than I want to do?" And buy yourself some space. Accept responsibility for what you're about to do. You see, we all have things that hit us in life. We get a stimulus. Something happens. Somebody says something, does something, cuts you off in traffic. Child is screaming, passed over for promotion. Whatever it is, something triggers you. Something has you agitated and shaken up. Now, what you do with that stimulus is up to you. You have responsibility. But before you respond, you need to have the ability to think about what you're getting ready to do, count to 1,000,000, and consider your options. All right, so with Susie, we're just saying, listen, when you got to teach her about those triggers. When you feel those triggers, those physiological amp, when you feel that amp up starting to come, you're starting to climb that ladder of anger, back down, get off the ladder, back up. If you got to, leave the room. Don't change the diaper. Don't touch the baby. Just go somewhere else for just a few minutes, just for a second, and catch your breath. Think about what's getting ready to happen. Play the movie forward. Anticipate what you're about to do. And back away. So far, we've talked about owning the fact you're angry. And then accept responsibility. Slow down your response. Restrain from an immediate response. Okay, and then Let me give you another case study. Joey, 9 years old Joey. Cute little kid. Blue eyes, blonde hair, buzz cut, classic American fourth grade kid. Just exactly what you'd hope to see. He's beautiful. All-American kid. And Joey has 4 brothers and sisters, and they've had a pretty good ride with mom and dad so far. But Joey, in his fourth grade mind, can't figure out why lately he's not seen his dad much. Doesn't know where dad is. I don't really know. And he just tries to play and forget about it. He doesn't bother him too bad most of the time. So Christmas is coming, and Joey's so excited. And he asks for what every 9-year-old needs, a BB gun. He gets it Christmas morning. He gets that BB gun. It's wrapped and under the tree. And he gets that BB gun, and he pulls it out. But somebody's missing at Christmas morning because, Dad gathered the gifts and put them under the tree, but Dad left that morning. And Dad felt like it was more important to be with his new girlfriend than to be with his wife and his kids that day. And so Joey's got a BB gun, but Joey doesn't have a dad. But Joey's mom makes the best of it, like she always does. She takes Joey out on the back deck and teaches him how to shoot that BB gun. And she puts a little paper plate target on a tree about 20 yards away. And Joey gets pretty good at hitting that paper plate target on the tree off his back deck. And he's been doing that for a few days. He's pretty good at that. Never misses the plate anymore. Getting a little boring. Notices his neighbor's cat in the yard. A Garfield sucker thing off to the left in the yard over there. And as Garfield tries to climb the trees next door, Joey figures out, you know what? I can hit that cat too. Bam! He hit that cat. Falls out of the tree. Runs across, ping, hits him again. And every time the cat is out, Joey is excited about being on the back deck with his BB gun. It's pretty fun, It's way better than the plate. It's got this moving target. And the cat, the neighbors are wondering after a few days, they're like, the cat seems really irritable. What's wrong with the cat? They start petting the cat, and they realize they're petting the cat when a little BB falls off out of her fur. They're like, holy moly. And what's going on with the cat? Well, the next day, they put the cat outside early in the morning. It wasn't long till they see Joey on the back deck with the BB gun. And they realize what's going on is that Joey has decided it's hunting season for Garfield. He's just peppering that cat with BBs. So obviously the neighbors come over and talk to Joey's mom, like, hey, listen, Joey's shooting the cat. And Joey's just doing what a shaken up 9-year-old does, He's just handling himself the best he can. And so if you were Joey's mom and you're sitting down to talk to him, what would you talk to him about? Joey, you probably shouldn't shoot the cat. Yeah, but I want to shoot the cat. Joey, we don't shoot cats. And you would go through the whole deal. But if you listen to Joey long enough, you might realize that Joey is really shaken up down in his soul. Way beneath the surface, Joey is angry at the universe right now. And he's had a hard time figuring out why. Why it feels so good to shoot that cat. It feels really good to shoot that cat. You'd begin to talk to Joey about focusing his anger in the right place, wouldn't you? You would talk to him about locating the focus of his anger and choosing the right target for his anger. Figuring out, Joey, we got to shoot at something different with this energy that's inside you, with this anger that's inside you. We got to do something different with this. We got to find a different target for this. You see, the challenge for a lot of us is that just like Joey, we're trapped in situations that are bigger than us, that we really can't control. And so we start taking our anger out in all different directions than where they need to go. So I would ask you to think about doing these things with your anger. Restrain your immediate response. Just hold back. locate the real focus of your anger and just admit that you're angry. Let's start there. All right, so now let's just think about all these people. You have Robert in the accounting department. You got Susie strapped in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 little ones. And you got Joey shooting cats off the back deck. There are ways to handle this anger. We've gone through 3 of them. Own it. Hold off before you respond. Figure out who you're really angry at. And now let's go to the 4th one. Here's the 4th part of making the most of your anger and of actually doing something good with it. Okay, building your house up instead of burning it down. The 4th one is this: analyze your options. Figure out what you're going to do with the energy of this anger. What could you do with this anger that would be good, that might be helpful, that will build things up instead of just tearing them down? If you're going to be angry without sinning, it's going to be because you're building things up and making them better and not tearing them down, not burning them down. So I'm going to give you 4 questions. I would encourage you to write these questions down because they're incredibly helpful questions as you figure out what you're going to do with your anger. Now, here's the first question that I would encourage you to ask about your situation, about what you're going to do with your anger. First question is this: what would it look like for me to trust God with this situation? First question: what would it look like for me to trust God with this situation? Okay, that's question number 1. Question number 2: will this action that I'm considering taking bring about restoration and resolution? Will this action bring about restoration and resolution? Will it help the situation? Will it heal the relationship? Will it make things better or worse? Question number 1, what would it look like to trust God with this situation? Number 2, will this action bring about resolution and restoration? Number 3, will this action be good for the person that I'm angry with? That's a weird question, isn't it? Will this action be good for the person I'm angry with? Because when we're angry with somebody, what do we want to do to them? Hurt them, right? Hurt them as bad or worse than they've hurt us, right? And yet Jesus is remarkable as a teacher and as a leader, and he says that when somebody offends us, he gives us instructions on how many times to forgive them. You know how many times he said we should forgive them? 70 times 7. To us, that means nothing. To a Jewish mind that he was teaching, it meant an infinity amounts of time that you forgive them. Now that's ridiculous, isn't it? Jesus was totally ridiculous in his teaching. And yet I think he meant it. And we're encouraged to pray for those who use us and for those who harm us. We're encouraged to pray for them and to pray that God does something good for them. So this question is vital for us. Will this be good for the person I'm angry at? Is this going to make things better or worse? Will this action be good for the person I'm angry with? And then here's the 4th question: does it fit within the guidelines of Matthew 18? Now, I don't have time to teach you what's in Matthew 18 today, but if you're a Christ follower and you have a Bible, you can pick this up and you can look at Matthew 18. You can study that this week as part of your homework. What does Matthew 18 say about how to handle my anger and what to do when someone offends me? How am I supposed to go to them and how am I supposed to treat them and what am I supposed to do with that? Very clear teaching from Jesus himself on how to handle a situation when you're angry with somebody. So those are your 4 questions. What does it look like to trust God with this? Or what would it look like to trust God with this? Will this action bring about restoration and reconciliation? Will this action be good for the person I'm angry with? And then does it fit within the guidelines of Matthew 18? Now, if your solution, if your answer to what you're going to do with your anger fits those 4 questions and you've come up with an option that fits within those, then I would say take action. But here's what you've got to know. Even if you go to the person and as humbly and gently as you can, you may say something to them like this: you know, I'm really bothered by a situation or by X. I don't think I have all the facts. Could we get together and I want you just to maybe fill me in a little bit more so I understand what's really happening. Now, you may start with something as humble and gentle as that. And you may have a very constructive, positive discussion with them. But it's possible that even though you feel very offended by the person, that they may not feel like they've offended you at all. You ever had that come up? They may say, I don't know what you're so upset about. Even after you explain it, it's on you. So you got to know that even though you do your best to get a solution that fits within these 4 ideas, it still may not work the way you wanted it to. Or after you ask these 4 questions, you may figure out, I don't have any good solution. No solution I'm coming up with fits these 4 questions. It just doesn't fit. I can't come up with a solution of how to handle my anger that works. So what are you supposed to do then? I would encourage you to consider doing what the Bible calls forbearance. Forbearance. That is to admit you've been wronged, to own the fact that you're angry, you've worked through options, you've considered your options, none of them are good, and then you take this problem, this challenge, this anger you're feeling, this upset you have, and you take it to the Father, to God, and you say, okay, God, I got nothing. I don't think there's anything I can do here. This is not a cop-out, by the way. If you've really done your homework and analyzed your options, you've stepped back and you've taken your time and you've not responded too soon, you've owned that you're angry, you've done all these steps, and you can't come up with a good option, it's taking it to the Father and saying, okay, Father, I can't fix this. I don't think there's anything I can do. God, would you help me? Would you help me? Would you help me to let go of my anger in spite of the fact I can't fix it? Would you help me to move on? Would you help me to release the person from my prison of anger? Now, by the way, you think you're locking them up by being angry with them? You are not. You are locking yourself up. You're the one that lives in the jail that you create, not them. If you don't release them, you will live in your own self-imposed prison. So we practice forbearance, and we bring it to the Father, and we say, all right, I'm giving this up to you, God. Would you handle this for me? God says that vengeance is His, and He'll repay. If there's a wrong to be righted, God will make it right. God cares for you as a dearly loved child. You can trust Him. He will do a better job with what you can't resolve than you would anyway. So let it go. But this is an active letting go. A lot of times, at least for me, I give it to God, but then I walk about 10 steps down the road, and guess what I do? I get it back. And I want to treat it like that pet python. See, this is not stuffing. Stuffing is when you don't really admit you have a problem, you just stuff it away. Forbearance is the opposite of that. It's saying, I got a problem, I can't fix it. God, would you help me? You're bringing it up. And this, by the way, is the only way to kill the python if you've been stuffing. If you don't come up with a solution that you can work that fits within those 4 questions, then you got to give it up to God. Today is probably a really good day for most of us to let go of something, to bring something to the Father, and to practice forbearance. There may be issues in your life and people you're angry with and situations you're angry about that there's nothing you can do. You're as helpless as Joey. So you bring it to the Father and you say, God, I can't handle this on my own. I need your help. And you actively give it up to God. And you ask Him to give you the power to walk away and to forgive, even though you may never be able to forget, but to forgive actively and hand it over to God. So, we can harness the power of anger. We can keep from burning our own house down. We can actually build our house up if we'll do 4 things. Admit we're angry. Restrain from that immediate response. Count to 1,000,000. Figure out who you're really angry at. Choose the right target. Analyze your options. And then take constructive action. That's how you can be angry without sinning.